November 3rd, 2024, the morning in Georgetown, Western Cape started like any other peaceful day. Gentle sunlight spreads across the roads leading to Garden Route Mall, the busiest shopping center in the area. But just minutes later, the scene was torn apart by the sound of rapid, sharp gunfire echoing throughout the parking lot. The sound of metal hitting concrete, the sound of breaking glass, and panicked screams mixed together, creating an unprecedented moment of chaos. Shoppers rushed to abandon their carts, bags of groceries falling to the floor. Amid the chaos, a man collapsed next to a black luxury sedan, his body motionless, his shirt stained with blood. Bullet wounds to the chest and face, cold and precise, the hallmarks of a hit-style execution in South African organized crime. With just one glance, many people recognize the name that makes many people both respect and fear: Mark Liffman. He was not only a businessman who had appeared in the newspapers, but also a powerful symbol of the Capetown underworld. A man who stood at the heart of protection rackets, shady dealings, and complex relationships with the Western Cape's most notorious gangs. But today, all that power ended in seconds. In broad daylight, in a crowded place, a boss was shot down without hesitation. And from that moment, the question that haunted all of South Africa was raised. Who was bold enough to kill Mark Liffman? Is this the end, or just the starting gun of a bloodier underground war? Mark Liffman was born in 1965 in Cape Town. In the context of this city entering a period of economic boom mixed with social unrest. Coming from a well-off family, Liffman quickly demonstrated his business acumen, starting with legitimate activities such as real estate and security services. But from the late 1980s, he gradually moved into shady areas, where power and money intertwined. The law was just a thin line. Throughout the 1990s and 2000s, Liffman built a successful business image with lucrative contracts in nightclub security, event planning, and protection for major entertainment venues in Cape Town. But at the same time, many investigative reports show that he also runs money laundering and extortion rings and has connections with notorious gangs in the Western Cape. The protection contracts not only ensured safety for the nightclubs, but also maintained Liffman's control over underworld rivals. Since 2010, his name has been associated with serious violence. Law enforcement agencies suspect Liffman of being involved in a series of assassinations in a bid to purge Cape Town's criminal underworld. The highlight is the alleged involvement in the murder of Brian Weinstein, dubbed the Steroid King, a notorious figure in the global illegal steroid trade in 2017. Weinstein was murdered at his home in Constantia, and many sources believe it was part of a battle to gain control of the market and eliminate direct threats to Liffman's interests. Despite repeated investigations, Liffman was rarely successfully charged, partly because he has a network of experienced lawyers, partly because of the witnesses' hesitation when facing a powerful and influential figure. To many in the industry, he is not only a boss, but also a negotiator, someone who mediates or arranges secret deals between gangs, sometimes preventing bloody clashes, sometimes taking advantage to consolidate his own position. With his dashing looks, confident demeanor, and appearance at lavish events, Liffman always maintains an image that is both elegant and dangerous. In the public eye, he was a two-faced figure. On one hand, a successful businessman, on the other, a symbol of organized crime in Cape Town. It was that mix that made Liffman a name that everyone knew, but few dared to confront. Mark Liffman entered a period of turmoil and danger in his later years. Once the negotiator who kept the balance between the major gangs in Cape Town, he found himself at the center of simmering rivalries. Old alliances are fractured, and once fearful partners are now secretly trying to eliminate him to gain control of protection contracts, money laundering rings, and hidden interests in the Western Cape. At the same time, the law tightened its siege. Liffman faced a series of serious charges: murder, conspiracy to commit murder, organized crime, and especially the accusation of being involved in the murder of Steroid King, Brian Weinstein, in 2017. The hearing at the Western Cape High Court on the 4th of November, 2024, just one day after his assassination, is seen as a moment that could determine both his freedom and his life. It was well known in the criminal world that Liffman's testimony, if revealed, could bring down many other powerful figures. As a result, rumors of his life being threatened spread quickly. However, Liffman still maintains the habit of appearing in public, driving luxury cars, visiting expensive places, believing that the code of silence among tycoons will protect him. But Cape Town was different now. Bold public assassinations were a show of force. The old rules were being overturned by new, more aggressive forces. In the final weeks, Liffman became more vigilant. changing his schedule frequently, but still did not believe that anyone would dare to attack in broad daylight at a major shopping center like the Garden Route Mall. On 3 November 2024, that trust was shattered. His public death was not just a purge, but a declaration of war, heralding a new era of violence that would sweep the Western Cape. The trial, set for the 4th of November 2024 at the Western Cape High Court, is not just a routine legal proceeding, but is seen as a moment that could shake the entire underworld in Capetown. The trial, set for the 4th of November 2024 at the Western Cape High Court, is not just a routine legal proceeding, but is seen as a moment that could shake the entire underworld in Capetown. At the heart of the trial was the 2017 murder of steroid king Brian Weinstein, a murder that made headlines for its links to the illegal steroid market and trafficking routes stretching from South Africa to Europe. Prosecutors are said to have gathered enough evidence to link Mark Liffman to Weinstein's murder, revealing a network of high-ranking crime figures with whom he worked or fought. Yes, many inside sources believe that if Liffman goes to trial and chooses to reveal information to reduce his sentence, these secrets will drag down a series of big names, from gang bosses to businessmen and officials with underground connections. It is this ability that makes him a direct threat to many enemies. In the underworld, where silence is an unwritten rule, it is considered unacceptable for someone like Liffman to break that rule. For those in the crosshairs, eliminating him before the trial begins is the only way to protect their interests and their lives. So the November 4th, 2024 court date is not just a date in a legal filing, but also a countdown clock for Liffman, a clock that those who want him silenced forever have decided to stop before it reaches its final number. At around 11:30 a.m. on the 3rd of November 2024, the car park of Garden Route Mall in George Western Cape was still bustling with shoppers coming and going. The early summer sun spread over the rows of parked cars, the sound of car doors closing, talking and footsteps echoing on the concrete floor. No one expected that just a few minutes later, that ordinary scene would turn into the scene of one of South Africa's most daring assassinations of the year. According to security cameras, Mark Liffman left the mall with an acquaintance. He walked confidently, shopping bag in hand, toward a black luxury sedan parked near the exit. At that moment, a white Volkswagen Polo suddenly slowed down and stopped at Liffman's level. The passenger door opened, and immediately the first shots rang out. Witnesses at the scene said the gunshots echoed loudly, bouncing off the concrete walls of the parking lot, causing many people to panic and run away, abandoning their bags and vehicles. A woman said she saw at least 2 people inside the car, one with a handgun, his hands covered in gloves, firing no fewer than 6 shots in rapid succession in Liffman's direction. The shots were aimed directly at the chest and face, with such precision that it appeared to be a professional hit, with no intention of leaving the victim alive. Liffman collapsed right next to his car door, his body tilted, blood spreading quickly on the tile floor and the body of the car. His companions ran away in all directions, avoiding the bullets. The whole incident took less than 10 seconds, but was enough to instill terror in anyone present. After the shots, the Polo's door slammed shut. The car then sped away at high speed, weaving between rows of cars and disappearing through the east gate of the parking lot. Within minutes, mall security arrived, cordoned off the area, and local police were called in. Sirens wailed throughout the roads leading to the N2. Investigators quickly determined that the assassination was a well-planned affair. The VW Polo reportedly had false license plates and was found abandoned just hours later near the town of Uniondale, more than 60 miles away. Changing the license plate, choosing a popular car to make it difficult to identify, and attacking in broad daylight in a crowded place all showed that the person behind it was willing to take great risks to achieve their goals. Witnesses interviewed all confirmed that the perpetrator appeared cool and did not panic despite shooting at close range and in front of many people. This reinforces police's view that the attack was carried out by experienced gunmen, most likely hired from outside the George area to avoid direct contact with local groups. When paramedics arrived, Liffman showed no signs of life. Several rescue workers said they recognized the victim immediately and understood the seriousness of the incident. The death of a figure of this magnitude in broad daylight will surely send shockwaves through Capetown and the Western Cape. In the following hours, the news spread rapidly on social media. Images and videos of the scene were shared at a dizzying pace, attracting thousands of comments, from public shock to speculation about who was behind it. In Capetown, sources in the criminal world also immediately understood that this was not just a purge, but also a message. No one is invulnerable. The assassination took place just 24 hours before Liffman was to appear in court, further fueling public suspicions that it was an attempt to silence him. With its swift, decisive attack and safe escape, the case bore all the hallmarks of a premeditated plan, one that involved people who knew Liffman's schedule, habits, and even the weak points of his protective circle. Immediately after the gunfire stopped, George Police Department's rapid response units immediately sealed off the entire Garden Route Mall car park area. Yellow tape was put up to prevent people from approaching the scene. Investigators began collecting shell casings, photographing blood stains, and measuring the locations of vehicles. At the same time, the forensic team reviewed the security camera system of the shopping center and neighboring stores, tracing the route of the white VW Polo, the vehicle identified by witnesses as the perpetrators. Video footage shows the car leaving the parking lot seconds after the shooting ended, heading east towards the N2. This information is immediately transmitted to checkpoints on the route and the automatic license plate recognition system. A few hours later, police received a tip from a local patrol. A VW Polo was abandoned on the side of the road near Uniondale, more than 100 kilometers from the scene. The license plate was confirmed to be fake, and inside the car, investigators found gloves, a dark jacket, and traces of gunpowder, evidence that supported suspicions that this was the murder vehicle. From the collected clues and witness statements, the investigation force narrowed down to two suspects: Johannes Hendrik Jacobs, 53 years old, and Gert Johnny Bezwedenhout, 37 years old. Both had criminal records involving violence and organized crime. Police launched an urgent manhunt, and late on the 3rd of November 2024, they were arrested at a remote hostel near the Eastern Cape provincial border. That same night, Jacobs and Bezwedenhout were brought back to George for questioning. The next morning, they were formally charged with attempted murder and made their first appearance before George Magistrates Court. The quick arrest in less than 12 hours is considered a great success for the police force, but also raises the question: were these just hired gunmen, or a direct link in an assassination plan by a larger force behind it? The assassination of Mark Liffman in broad daylight, right in the crowded car park of the Garden Route Mall, sent shockwaves across South Africa. Within hours, images of the scene spread across the media and social networks, accompanied by a series of intense headlines. Capetown tycoon falls in broad daylight. No one is invulnerable anymore. To many, this was not just a crime, but a public declaration of war by the underworld against the entire legal system. A sense of insecurity pervaded the country. People asked if a wealthy, powerful figure like Liffman, who had been surrounded by layers of protection, could be shot down in public, then where could ordinary people really be safe? Forums and websites were flooded with angry comments. Many harshly criticized the legal system for allowing a witness and suspect in a high-profile murder case to travel without any special protection, even though everyone knew he would appear in court just one day later. Voices from anti-crime groups and some lawmakers are calling for radical reforms, tightening bail laws, upgrading witness protection mechanisms, and focusing on dismantling organized crime rings. They warned that the Liffman case was not just the end of an individual, but also a testament to the growing audacity of criminals, willing to act in public without fear of the law. Public opinion is unanimous on one thing: if the mastermind and the entire network behind it are not brought to light, this assassination will become a dangerous precedent, pushing the people's already fragile faith in justice to the brink of collapse. In January 2025, more than 2 months after the shocking assassination, Johannes Hendrik Jacobs and Gert Johnny Bezwedenhout were escorted to George Magistrates Court to have their bail applications considered. Both men, wearing orange prison uniforms, entered the courtroom under heavy security. The atmosphere was tense as the prosecutor stressed that this was an organized murder case, that the defendants were extremely dangerous, and that any release would pose a threat to witnesses. The court, after deliberation, denied bail. Not accepting this judgment, the defense team immediately appealed to the Western Cape High Court. However, in May 2025, their hopes were dashed again. The High Court upheld the decision, citing the particularly serious nature of the case, coupled with the complex context of Cape Town's criminal underworld, requiring the defendant to be detained to ensure the safety of witnesses and preserve the investigation. Since then, the case has been investigated in absolute secrecy. Key evidence, key statements, and any connections between the two defendants and other powerful underworld figures are being kept secret. Police said the move was necessary to prevent the risk of retaliation or silencing witnesses, something not uncommon in Western Cape crackdowns. A formal trial is still ahead, but until then, the Mark Liffman case continues to hang between unresolved secrets and the promise that justice will one day be served. Mark Liffman's death not only brings to an end the controversial life of a powerful tycoon, but also lifts the veil on a cold truth. South Africa's underworld is now willing to strike in broad daylight, in front of dozens of witnesses, and still believes it will escape justice. The Garden Route Mall killings were more than just a purge. They were a blatant statement that the law had lost its deterrent power against those who ran the game in the shadows. The message was not only directed at Lifman's opponents, but also to society. We can do this at any time. No one is safe. And when a person with money, power, and deep connections like Lifman can still be publicly assassinated, people's belief in the safe zone becomes more fragile than ever. This is a wake-up call for the entire system, from witness protection mechanisms to the ability to investigate organized crime, to the legal reforms needed to stop the cycle of violence. Because otherwise, each public murder will be just another link in an increasingly daring chain of purges. And the day when gunshots ring out in public places will become normal is probably not far away. The final question still hangs, haunting like a warning. How many more public assassinations like this must we witness before justice is strong enough to end the cycle of bloodshed?